Day 12 started early as we cruised into the channel leading to the city of Stanley in the Falkland Islands, an archipelago about 300 miles off Argentina's coast, consisting of East Falkland Island, West Falkland Island, and 776 smaller islands covering 4,700 square miles. Stanley, also known as Port Stanley, is the capital city of the Falkland Islands and is located on East Falkland Island. Stanley has a population of about 2,500 people out of the 3,400 people that call the islands home. We were one of the 4 cruise ships setting port in Stanley today. The Star and Holland America's Oosterdam were in the larger outer harbor, and 2 smaller excursion ships were able to enter the smaller inner harbor. With the combined ship's passengers, the population of the city increased about 300%. As soon as the ship cleared customs, groups were already gathering in the theater for their day's excursion. We were whisked straight from the tender port into a waiting van, and down the road we went, learning a little bit about life on the islands as we rode. Our driver explained how she typically worked in a construction company office, but on big days like today with so many tourists, everyone in the city pitched in and helped. Her dad was a farmer, but was down doing ropes at the dock. Her sister was helping at a gift shop. 15 minutes later, we were pulling over in a field and getting into an off-road Jeep for another 15-minute ride through a cow pasture to Newen Station. Our Jeep driver teased us that we had a special treat awaiting us on the beach and gave us a ride to remember getting there. But when we got there, it was worth every bump. We started with baby penguins. Cute little cuddly, fuzzy baby penguins who were happy to pose as only a cute, cuddly baby penguin can. The parents were on the beach below, coming and going from fishing, and soon we headed to the beach to see our surprise. King penguins! 6 king penguins were on the beach, as they had been out fishing when they started molting, and were hanging with the Gentoo penguins until they finished molting, as they have to stay on land during the process. It was easy to see why they were called king. They towered over the other penguins, and their distinct markings made them easy to spot. One of the major shore excursions in the Falkland Islands is a trip to Volunteer Point to see hundreds of king penguins. But it's a long, difficult, and expensive excursion, and when this one popped up at the last minute to Newen Station, we decided to try it. And I'm so happy we did, as the king penguins were such a wonderful surprise. You could see the last few feathers of the king penguins coming off, and we had been told it was probably the last day they would be there, as their molting process was almost done. They would head back out fishing and to their king penguin colony, probably at Volunteer Point. I understand why people do the long trip out there to see the huge colonies of king penguins at Volunteer Point. I may need to come back and do that. It's hard to describe how time both flew by and stood still at the same time. One of the things I love most about cruising is the ability to spend an afternoon on a windswept beach in such a remote location I would have never had a chance to visit otherwise. One afternoon in a lifetime, but such a memorable afternoon. Looking back, we all agreed that this was our favorite excursion of the entire cruise. Just sitting on the beach, in no hurry, and with a very small group. We could just absorb the experience, the once-in-a-lifetime afternoon. The king penguins were just the final perfect touch to an incredible cruise. After an hour, as our jeeps appeared in the distance, dropping off the next group at the top of the hill, we had enough time to grab a penguin-shaped, very tasty cookie before getting one last glimpse at the baby penguins on our return trip through the cow pasture. Almost like being home in Texas, except for the scenery and driving on the wrong side of the road. Back in the big van, we swapped stories of how lucky we felt to see the penguins, and soon we were back at the tender port, ready to explore. But first, we had to join in the fun of posing in front of the Falkland Island sign, now that it wasn't as busy and we weren't in such a hurry to go see the penguins. We might have decided to do a little extra posing, since no one we knew would ever see us. We had a few hours left in port and wanted to make the most of it after so many days on the ship, and so many more sea days left. We wandered around the town for a bit, visiting the local church with its distinctive whalebone arch, where everyone needed to get a selfie. We found a nice place to sit in the sun, and just enjoyed the people watching and the view. The few gift shops in town were overflowing with tourists needing to grab a been there, done that souvenir. So we just saw a few sights and locals. And then caught a tender back to the ship. Back on board, we had a front row view of the tender steadily going back and forth, as the rain that had been threatening all day dropped just a few raindrops on us. But it didn't last long. And as we spun around, the sun came back out, and we began to cruise back out of Stanley Harbor. As we left the land behind us, we ended our day, tired, happy, and with visions of penguins in our dreams. Days 13 and 14 were sea days, with a few more lectures and activities. Lots of eating. A little relaxing. More eating. We had to make sure we didn't miss out on a single restaurant on the ship. Watching slow sunsets and preparing for our final 3 days in Buenos Aires. Stay tuned for part 8, our return trip to Buenos Aires.